reviews. Great place with amazing food. The Sunday champagne brunch is fabulous. I saw the place on IG. We tried it for lunch. We were blown away by the food and the service. The restaurant has an inviting atmosphere and a dynamic vibe. Over the years, Lionel has catered most major Black events in Los Angeles, including all of our KBLA Talk 1580 gatherings. But now he has his own spot, Lionel's Soul Food Cuisine, and you need to check it out at 8501 South Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles. Oxtails, baked or fried chicken, meatloaf, turkey chops, pork chops, catfish, short ribs, and all the fixins. Collard greens, mac and cheese, yams, red beans, black-eyed peas, and more. And of course, hot water cornbread, satisfying drinks, and delicious desserts. Lionel's is a great place for brunch, lunch, or dinner. If it's good enough for us, it's good enough for you, because we've got your black. So head on over to Lionel's Soul Food Cuisine at 8501 South Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles and tell Lionel you heard about it on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Of course, that was Prince, but it's also Andy, our engineer. Andy, thank you very much and welcome back to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Andy was one of the first engineers that I had when I came onto this radio station, and I'm so grateful for his service and his work. In this hour, we are introducing a new series called Moving Mountain Mondays, and we couldn't find a more appropriate and a better pastor, preacher, leader than Reverend Terry Hord Owens, who is the general minister and president of the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, in the United States and Canada. She's the first person of color and second woman to lead the denomination and the first woman of African descent to lead a mainline denomination. Elected in 2017, Dr. Reverend Hord Owens was reelected to a second term as general minister and president in 2023. Her ministry actively reflects the disciples' priority of being an anti-racist church, being a movement for wholeness, welcoming all to the Lord's table as God has welcomed us. Her exhortation to the church is this: let's be the church we say we are. It is in being who we say we are that we actively bear witness to God's limitless love for all. Dr. Teresa Hord Owens, she's going to say, I'm not a doctor. Well, yes, she is. She is Reverend Dr. Teresa Hord Owens, and I'm going to respect her for that. And I'm so grateful that she's here. She is in Johannesburg, South Africa today. She's joining us by way of the world's amazing technological connections.
Yeah.
Reverend Owens, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and more specifically to your series, The Faith to Fall.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really excited and really honored and humbled to have been asked to do this. So thanks for that confidence in me, and looking forward to good conversation as we move forward with the series. And congratulations on your deal with Travis Smiley Media. And that's really great. The syndication, we're just watching God do great things with and for you. So I'm excited for you.
Well, our goal is to do it together.
Yeah.
My question for you is, so much has changed in the world since we were last together. we almost need to be closer every day rather than even once a week. But it's certainly been a month or two since we've actually been together. You're in Johannesburg, South Africa. We only have a couple of minutes before the break. Share with us what the church's business is and why it takes you to Africa during this time.
I am a member of the Central Committee of the World Council of Churches, which is the smaller deliberative body. It's small, it's about 300 people. World Council of Churches represents over 250, 300 actually, different denominations in about 127 countries. And so we gather every 2 years to take up the business of the church. And we've been discussing not only administrative work, but primarily we're now down to the work of various public issue statements that these churches want to make. The process by which we do this is consensus. So it's not just a straight majority vote. It allows for some level of discernment, but we have some pretty heavy topics on our agenda at this meeting, including the situation with Palestine and Israel, the recent attacks by both Israel and the United States on Iran. And I've just been having some fascinating conversations with people around the world, from Africa to Europe to the Pacific and Southeast, about what's actually happening in the U.S. And people their minds are blown. They don't even understand how it's possible that America could be behaving in this way. So one of the main goals is to really speak to the world's Christians, and therefore really to the world about important matters.
I'm so grateful that you're going to bring this perspective to us. And I think all of us are grateful for the opportunity to share, because obviously we're not in your shoes. We're not there. We're not in a mainline denomination that has African Americans, but a far larger non-African American constituency as part of the churches that you represent, and the congregants that you represent as general minister and president of the Disciples of Christ. When we come forward, we're going to cover some of these issues with Dr. Reverend Teresa Hord Owens, where we will be discussing many of the challenges confronting the church across our country, across our world, and here at home. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, The Faith Not to Fall, with our very special guest, Reverend Dr. Teresa Hord Owens, on her weekly series, Moving Mountain Mondays. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time, whenever news breaks, while we're on the air. It's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580, and we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. And I thank you, thank you.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent, and the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember, no warrant, no key,
My privacy.
you don't have to speak.
No
lawyer inside.
Don't say a thing.
Yeah, we all got rights.
Hey, we all got rights.
Thy ticket, Lady Jennifer of Coolidge.
Well, many thanks, good sir. Here'th my Discover card.
They accept Discover at Renaissance fairs?
Yeah, they do here. Discover's accepted at the places I love to shop. Getteth with the times.
With the times? You're playing the lute.
Yeah, and it sounds pretty good, right?
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Small businesses are the heart of America.
But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest is President Teresa Hord Owens of the United Disciples of Church of Christ. Reverend, first let me geopolitically locate you with this question. She is in Johannesburg on this occasion, meeting with representatives of mainline denominations, part of her church denomination and affiliations, and you're there in post-apartheid South Africa. When I was in Soweto during apartheid and on the occasion of when Nelson Mandela was freed, I said to myself, South Africa has a long way to go in a democracy in order to close some of the gaps that exists in our society, in their society. And I'm wondering your thoughts being there on the ground today, before we get to the Middle East and some of the other issues that are being challenged in the news. Are you seeing in this democratic republic the kind of progress that we anticipated now that Black South Africans are largely in a constitutional framework and a democracy?
Yeah, and before that, I just want to let you know that the historically Black denominations in the U.S., the AME Zion, National Baptist, Progressive Baptist, are also members of the World Council, as are several African churches. So it's not just white main lines, but there are several Black churches represented. One of the interesting things that I saw, it's been a good 20 years since I was in South Africa. And in fact, when I first came, it was with the church my husband served, Salem Baptist in Chicago. We were doing some HIV/AIDS mission work at children's orphanages. And that was 2001. And so it was, Mandela had been in office maybe 7 years. And so the new republic was very young. One of the things that we've heard, we had a chance to hear from Dr. Frank Chikane, who is one of the
historic
writers, right, historic figure of one of the Kairos document, the 1985 theological statement about anti-apartheid that was developed by an underground series of conversations across the country. And they are about to call the nation to another national conversation 30 years after 1994, because they are not making as much progress as they had hoped. There are still challenges in terms of economics. 72% of the land is still owned by the descendants of white settlers. We were just taking a bus. We went to from church in near Boksburg, I guess it is, Light of Hope, United Dutch Reformed Church, wonderful congregation that just shared with us. And you saw on the from the highway, the rooftops of shanties that you would have seen in the settlements. So that presence of extreme poverty is still quite there. And there are places where you'll see a more middle-class existence, but there is not the same kind of economic opportunity that they had hoped for. And so the nation is hoping to begin another conversation about what went wrong, and where they have stalled out. So it's sort of interesting. There's now Constitutional Hill. They've made a visitors tourist site out of the old local prison, where they would imprison folks who were caught without passbooks, all that good sort of stuff. So they have a constitutional court that's set up. You can tell that there's still sort of a weariness in the economy. And I see a more vibrant sense of personal agency than I did even 20 years ago. I have noticed that, but I'm not sure that the promised land is not within reach. The structural racism is still present because in many cases, Black folks still don't really own enough of the economy and enough of the economic engine for everybody to have access.
I'm sitting here floored by that 70+% number that you gave us about land ownership still being in the hands of do we call them Afrikaners now? I mean, are they still Afrikaners, or are they
They will
citizens
say
of South
there are white Afrikaners, but they will call them, the settlers. They use that term a lot. And just to be clear, the one thing they have stressed to us is that there is no genocide happening with white Afrikaners, as has been reported in the U.S. press. White people are not having their land taken from them. That is just not true. And they have said this over and over, and they are confounded and highly annoyed by the disrespect that was shown to their president when he came to visit Mr. Trump in the White House. So there's no love lost there, I would say.
Yeah, he was Zelensky'd. I mean, he showed up in the meeting and the guy started berating him. He started playing videos that didn't have anything to do with South Africa whatsoever.
Correct.
Just a misinformation campaign to humiliate
Absolutely.
the South African president.
But the other exciting thing we saw on the campus of the sort of a conference center where we're meeting was a South African sort of community college conference. So if you could imagine at a Black school campus, everybody's got their gear on representing their school. I almost expected to see a step show break out, but young people from across South Africa are in a huge conference, development work, I'm sure, but it's students who are students in community colleges. So there is that continued focus on what's possible for the next generation. So it was really exciting to talk to some of those young people who were fascinated by who we were and where we were from, because they saw there are Africans here from all over the continent: Angola, Nigeria, Kenya, Cameroon, South Sudan. I met someone from South Sudan who'd had his visa revoked. He's a student at Virginia Theological Seminary. So we're seeing the impacts of U.S. policy all over the world. And I had the opportunity to talk to some people who were really impacted by it. But the Africans are, it was great to make common cause with them. And we have a meeting actually within WCC of Africans and Africans in the diaspora. And there's going to be a huge conference back in Johannesburg next October. So I'm planning to attend that and really looking forward to participating, as are one of the co-chairs of that group are Dr. Frank Shabani from South Africa and Reverend Dr. Angelique Walker-Smith, who's been in ecumenical spaces for many years, serving the National Baptist Convention. But it's been uplifting for me to connect with African brothers and sisters, and my own African ancestry is Nigerian. So whenever I meet anybody from Nigeria, I'm hugging on them and we're loving on each other. So that's been a beautiful part of it. I was on a panel asked to speak about injustices in my context. And, you have to name racism, you have to name your particular context. And as Africans were on panels, they also named their context as being Africans. And one man, one of the highest compliments I've ever gotten in my life, he said, "You represent we people of African descent so well." I'm not sure there could have been a higher compliment paid to me, to be both embraced and to affirmed as a Black woman from America, able to connect and to have my brothers and sisters who are from African churches feel that I was in touch with who they are and where they were coming from.
One of the in the critical thinking and the mind of our producer, Gina Towns, Princeton Theological Seminary student. She envisions this show, the second hour of every show, and certainly Moving Mountain Mondays, as providing a platform for Reverend Owens to expand her voice across the country, around the world, because she has so much to contribute beyond her denomination to what's going on, the debates that are taking place. And so we are particularly honored that as this show grows, Dr. Teresa Hort Owens' voice is going to grow as well. With that said, share with us the church's reaction to the news of the U.S. involvement in Iran. And of course, feel free to date back to the tragic events of October 7th that led to the war with Hamas in the Gaza Strip. The work that you have done, Reverend Barber, have done on poverty here in the United States, which was obviously at the foundation of Martin Luther King Jr.'s desire to end the war in Vietnam, but the consequences of war and national treasury are abroad, and whether or not the United States should have intervened in this conflict. Reverend Owens.
Yes, we've had major conversations. I kind of worked my way backward. There are a couple of draft statements that are before the Central Committee, one on what's happening in Palestine and Israel's actions there, but also the recent attack on Iran by both Israel and the United States. And in having those conversations, there have been, I think we're getting greater consensus at this point on the fact that what existed prior to October 7th, what existed was really a state of apartheid by Israel in Palestine, where there is racial and ethnic segregation. You have to have a particular kind of a license plate. Your license plate color will indicate whether you are a Jewish Israeli citizen, whether you are a Palestine Israeli citizen, or whether you are a Palestine citizen without Israeli citizenship. The treaties about who owned what land have long been violated by what they're calling settlers moving into the Palestinian lands and creating really gated communities and sort of forcing the Palestinians out. Now, of course, Gaza is just not livable. And beyond understanding the right of a nation to protect itself and responding to the attack on October 7th, which nobody denies them that right. And yet at the same time, what we've seen by Israel and Gaza has been the attack on citizens, on civilians, hospitals, schools. They're illegally blocking humanitarian aid from getting in. There has been such devastation that it's hard to imagine. And as we look at our global partners who are there, that combined with the breakdown of federal funding for foreign aid being frozen by the current president, there's a world infrastructure and safety net to which many churches have contributed to. Some churches have been dependent on the federal government to fund that work. Our church has never taken federal funds for this work, but we do share in with many partners around the world. And that infrastructure is about to break. And what's happening in Congo, in South Sudan, in Gaza, and now even in Iran, in Haiti, literally around the world, intense devastation that nobody really seems to care about. So the idea that what Israel is doing is apartheid. South Africa actually took Israel to the International Court of Justice and charged them with apartheid. They were successful in getting a ruling that named what they were doing as apartheid, and that there are some consequences for that. And most of the churches, with very few exceptions, have now, 2 years ago, we couldn't agree on whether or not you could call this apartheid. And now people are understanding what the nature of apartheid is. They're seeing even more intensely what is happening in Gaza. But before October 7th, before Israel was attacking Gaza so fiercely, there was a state of apartheid. There is no right for the Palestinians to return. They were displaced in 1948. And even in the places where they've been sent, Jordan, Lebanon, other places in the Middle East, they don't have citizenship there, and they have to live in settlements. So it continues to be fraught with a lot of things. And we have to always be careful. I want to make this point really clear that when we critique what's happening in Israel, we are not critiquing the people who practice Judaism. We're not critiquing the Jewish people. We are critiquing the actions of the state of Israel and its government. And so there are, most of us are involved. My denomination has the interfaith dialogue with Jewish people. Most large Christian ecumenical organizations are doing that kind of work. So we don't have a problem with the people who practice Judaism or Islam. What we have a problem with is the disrespect of humanity.
Let me just associate myself with what you just said, because I think that oftentimes we are interpreted, our critiques, our criticisms, which we have a right to have from our theological perspectives, are from our theological perspectives. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's our commandment. And when we don't see it, it's deeply troubling for those of us who are Christians. And yet we want to sit around the table of brotherhood and sisterhood, just like all faiths, and even with non-believers, to bring about the kind of beloved community that we all deserve. When we come forward, our very special guest is none other than the president of one of the nation's leading denominations, the Disciples of Christ, Teresa Hord Owens. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says President Trump broke his promise to keep the U.S. out of foreign wars by launching an attack on Iran without congressional approval. The New York Democrat says the strike goes against the Constitution and bypassed diplomatic options that were still on the table. While he agrees Iran must not obtain nuclear weapons, Jeffries says the administration failed to pursue peaceful solutions. Jocelyn Savage, who claims she and R. Kelly are engaged, is denying claims from her parents that she's brainwashed or being controlled. In a new video, she says she's been with Kelly for 10 years, proposed to him 3 years ago, and still hopes for his release. And Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is warning about masked men posing as immigration agents. A viral video shows them pepper spraying and forcing a man into an unmarked car in Santa Ana. Officials have not confirmed if they were real agents, raising fears of impersonation and possible crimes. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
In East LA on the 5 southbound right at the 710. Going to do a break trying to clear a stall in the Sepulveda Pass. Our SIG alert has cleared 405 southbound right after Getty Center Drive. All lanes have been reopened. Now in Anaheim, 57 southbound right before the 522 had a car fire that was blocking that transition. They got it up onto the tow truck and it caught fire again. So right now that left lane is still going to be blocked.
Every day a child in poverty waits for a sponsor is another day of hopelessness. There are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Just text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Kevin Durant trade to the Houston Rockets should send a chilling message to the Lakers and Clippers. Both teams have a lot of work to do in the offseason to keep pace in the Western Conference. Right now, there's at least 5 teams that are legitimate contenders to win the West: Oklahoma City, Minnesota, Denver, Dallas, and now Houston. Do not sleep on the Dallas Mavericks. They've got the number 1 pick in the draft Wednesday night. They're going to use it to select Duke forward Cooper Flagg. If Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving have a healthy season, the Mavericks could be the favorite to keep OKC from running it back. It will be imperative for the Lakers and Clippers to make significant changes to their roster. Otherwise, the Lakers and Clippers will start next season looking up at 5 teams that are much closer to winning an NBA championship. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent, and the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember,
No warrant, no key. My privacy. You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside. Don't say a thing. Yeah, we all got rights. Hey, we all got rights. Ready to order.
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. So let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27 and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special guest and our co-host in this hour is Reverend Teresa Hort Owens. Reverend Owens earned her bachelor's degree from Harvard University and her master's of divinity degree from the University of Chicago Divinity School, where she subsequently served as Dean of Students for 12 years. Reverend Owens' resume includes more than 20 years of leadership in corporate America, leading diverse teams in data management. She serves on the National Council of Churches as the treasurer of the governing board and is a member of the World Council of Churches Central Committee. Reverend Owens, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Well, thank you so much. Enjoying the conversation as always.
Reverend, I want to share with you that in the mind of our show's creator, Gina Towns, she envisions a show where there'll be times when I interview you, have a conversation like we're having, but there'll also be plenty of times when there's subject matters that you want to talk about and people you want to bring on this hour, as expose them to our listening viewership as well. And of course, we're grateful for your participation and willingness to do that. So again, welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I want to share with you my sense that the United States has sacrificed its moral authority by bombing Iran. It is no longer seen, and I'm interested in what you're feeling on the ground. it's no longer seen as an honest broker in the peace process for a two-state solution or for any resolution in the Middle East on around the world. Share with me, from your perspective, someone who spent their entire life thinking about these very deep and very difficult questions, what it means for a nation to sacrifice its moral authority.
It is every time this happens, right, in the Bible, when kings from Israel to even other kings who failed to recognize the one true God, there's always a price to pay, from insanity to bloodshed to
Not Nebuchadnezzar.
conquering. Huh?
Not
Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Not Nebuchadnezzar, right? to diaspora. And I think that notion, one part of the many of the protests I've been involved with on an ecumenical basis in DC, asking for the Congress to have moral courage to speak back to the actions of the president. Here in South Africa, we're 7 hours ahead of Central Time here, so I was already up getting ready for church and turned on CNN and saw the news. I thought it was a joke almost at first. I'd gotten a news alert on my phone, and that was the conversation with everybody as we were all on buses being sent to various churches. I think one of the concerns that I see Christians having, not only in the United States but around the world, is that we have indeed lost that moral high ground. It began with actions like freezing federal funding for USAID, which does some of the most powerful humanitarian work around the world, and does so in a way that is, how shall I say, just devastating. People are literally dying, Jesse, because they're not getting this food. And we've heard from many countries around the world of what it means for them not to be getting this aid from the United States. Children are dying. What's happening in Gaza, people are dying. People in Iran are being killed. When you have I had lunch with a brother from Angola today, and he was at first he asked me, "Do you face discrimination in your country?" And I just kind of laughed and said, "Oh, oh, my friend." He was like, "But Barack Obama was your president." I said, "Oh, no, 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 no. Let me give you
On so many levels. I mean, is he just looking
Yeah.
at color, or does he also consider gender-based discrimination?
Yeah, I mean, he was wanting to know if but as a woman, and then he wanted to know. He says, "But in America, you have Barack Obama." And I was like, "Yeah, we had Barack Obama." And the backlash of a country that's at its core still very racist is, parallels what happened after Reconstruction. We made too much progress too fast. And so they rallied the troops and sort of pulled it all back. So when you have somebody from Angola who basically said to me, "We have looked to America. We have looked to America for the way in which things should go. And now we really can't do that." Another impact that's happening because we've lost this moral center. I spoke with the General Secretary of the Dutch Reformed Church, a woman, the first woman in their history. I was on
this
a
is the church. This is the church. Help our listeners with this.
This is the church
that was pro-apartheid.
That was pro-apartheid.
Okay.
And the church that I visited is a Black Reformed church associated with the Dutch Reformed. In fact, on their campus, there's a large sanctuary building that's there that the white church still meets in, although there aren't that many members. And the Black church is renting the facility. The Dutch Reformed Church will not sell their property or even allow them to enter it to use it as though they were nesting it. And what the General Secretary told me is that their churches have the right to do it. There is a movement within the Dutch Reformed Church where they are hearing about MAGA and this anti-DEI movement. And what they're saying is, look at America. Trump is telling them that this diversity and inclusion stuff is too liberal. We don't want to be liberal. Look what America is doing. So asking white people in South Africa to pull back from justice and equity for Black South Africans. This is the damage that our moral failure is causing. And it's
Wait a
not just
minute.
the
Are you sharing with us that the arguments that we've used to make progress in the United States as people of color, as Black people, are now the arguments that the Dutch Reformed Church is using to protect basically Anglo-white Christendom that was largely responsible for the apartheid regime in the first place?
Yes, and they're aligning themselves with this MAGA movement that says this kind of what they would see as a radical upset of society in order to bring inclusion is somehow that's just too liberal. That will hurt our country. And I said to her, what can you imagine if in South Africa, all the books that told you the history of apartheid were being banned? If somebody had the ability to ban the Black presidents and the Black leaders, I said, that's what's happening in the United States. If you have a role and the federal government, the president can impact your having it, from the Librarian of Congress to leading officials in our military, you're gone. Truth is being erased from websites, and they're trying to erase the history of slavery and segregation that's simply a part of the nation. But the fact that within the Dutch Reformed Church, one of the largest white churches in South Africa, they are calling for this and aligning themselves with the MAGA movement on that point. And the Black church that's meeting next door is larger in terms of numbers than they are. They will not even entertain the idea of sharing resource. They can't even enter that building.
You know,
And
we're
it's
so busy.
2025. Yeah.
I think we're so consumed by what's going on in our own country that we don't fully appreciate what you've just shared with us, how much
Yes.
this is spreading to other parts of the world.
Hungary, all of these recent elections around the world where you're seeing Germany is very concerned. I've talked with several people from Germany who are concerned that politics in Germany are starting once again to become very right-wing and very scary.
Fascist.
Fascist, let's just say, yeah.
We have about 1 minute before we come forward. I remind people, I spoke yesterday or day before yesterday at a Juneteenth event here in Chicago, and I shared with them that, you know, they want the Bible in schools. In other words, they don't have a problem with us learning the Exodus story. They don't have a problem with us learning Mr. Netanyahu's story, but they have a problem in public schools sharing with the American people and the public how we got out of slavery. And that same God that was concerned about and responsible for the Exodus story is also the same God that's responsible for our story.
Amen.
And our story includes adding stars to the flag. It has something to do with 13 stars leaving the flag. It has something to do with many battlefields around this country, and it leads to a 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. And so Juneteenth is part of our Passover. It's part of our Seder experience.
Correct.
When we come
Correct.
forward, Reverend Teresa Hord Owens, The Faith Not to Fall on Moving Mountain Mondays. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, we have a couple more questions for Dr. Teresa Hord Owens, and then she will lead us with a word of hope. I'm Jesse Jackson.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Pasadena City College is proud to support Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr. For over 100 years, PCC has been a pillar of the community, and we're here for you as we work together to recover from the Eaton fire and rebuild Altadena's future. At PCC, we offer diverse career education programs that prepare you for in-demand jobs, fueling both today's recovery and tomorrow's growth. Whether you're starting a new career or advancing your skills, PCC gives you tools to build your future and your community. Pasadena City College, here for the Dena, here for you. Learn more at pccfordena.com.
See website for details. Bills Happen is not a lender and does not make credit decisions. Hey, bills happen. So when you need extra cash fast, go to billshappen.com. Have you been turned down? Are your credit cards maxed out? Do you have bad credit? Go to billshappen.com. All you need is a job and a checking account. You can find a lender and get up to $5,000 cash as early as tomorrow at billshappen.com. BillsHappen.com is the smart way to get a personal lender now. So if you need extra money for car repairs, medical bills, family emergencies, whatever you need cash for, go to BillsHappen.com and you can get the money you need as soon as the next day, up to $5,000. At BillsHappen.com, our process is safe, secure, and all online. No one to deal with in person. And Bills Happen does not charge you any fees to use our service. It's easy. When you need a lender, just remember, when bills happen, go to BillsHappen.com. BillsHappen.com for the cash you need now. BillsHappen.com.
Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash.
It's me, Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash. I see those dry elbows, baby. But don't worry, get moisturized right in the shower. So hydrated you can skip the lotion after.
Don't wanna see it dry no more. Skin so moisturized with body wash.
Look at you now. No more dry skin. Your skin gets the moisture it craves with
Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach, transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal, prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special guest in this hour has been none other the president of the United Disciples of Church. The president and general minister of the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ in the United States and in Canada. She represents a very major mainline organization of Christians here in the United States, and she's in Johannesburg, South Africa at a international ministers conference where they are not only organizing themselves, but also reflecting upon and considering major resolutions on peace in the Middle East and peace throughout our world. Dr. Owens, Reverend Owens, welcome forward to your show. How about that?
Well, hey, how is that? Yeah, I love the picture that you're showing. These are the other representatives from my denomination who are there. You'll notice an Asian man who is he's Korean American, is our ecumenical officer. The Black man there is the president of Disciples Overseas Ministries, the part of our church that does global work. The bearded white man next to him is head of our churches in Australia. The shorter Asian man who's next to me, Vinh Nguyen, it was himself a Vietnamese refugee, and he now leads our disaster recovery and refugee resettlement organization. The tall guy in between the two Asian men is on the staff of the World Council of Churches, and he's part of our denomination. And then the young woman at the far right, they call them stewards, WCC stewards. It's sort of like being a Senate page. And so there are several young adults who are here learning about ecumenism and, working with us all. So it's one place in the world where I don't have to explain who my denomination is, because we've had such a long history of being ecumenical and leading in these kind of national and international spaces. So I'm proud of this team here.
I find as I look at this picture and I think about your ministry and your presidency, I think about my father's logical political solution here in the United States in 1984 and 1988, red, yellow, brown, black, and white, precious in all God's sight. And he began the Rainbow Coalition. And I think Dr. King's next level of that work was a spiritual integration beyond the political. We're Asians on one side of town, we're African Americans, we're Hispanics on another side of town. We come together to vote. But what I saw in that picture and in this moment, what I see in your ministry is the spiritual integration of our faith. And that is fundamentally different than the political integration of our faith. Politically, we're hoping that the Rainbow Coalition comes together and regains control of Congress, and we get this regime out of politics. But at the level of spiritual integration, I don't know anyone who's done more work in this realm than you, and certainly the work that Reverend William Barber has done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the World Council, because it's been this sort of conciliar body, groups of people representing all of these more than 200 denominations coming together for a World Assembly every 8 years, and then the Central Committee meets every 2 years. When Nelson Mandela became president, and the leaders of the World Council of Churches met with him, he spoke to the Central Committee and thanked them. He said, if it had not been for the World Council of Churches speaking up against apartheid, he said, I might not be president today. And we've been reminding those in that room of that legacy. And I actually, during my panel time, we were talking about the injustices in my context. I was like, how much time do you have? I'm living in the United States right now. I said, we need people and Christians around the world to speak against the government of the United States for their immoral acts. We need them to speak up. We know that it can make a difference, just as we're speaking up against genocide in Armenia. And we're not saying enough about the South Sudan and Congo and the places where Black and brown people are being affected. We're not saying enough about that, unfortunately. But there's a draft statement that will, in fact, address all those contexts. But I really am excited because one of these draft statements will, in fact, critique the U.S.'s actions in Iran. And I think it shows the power of a very diverse group of people coming together across all kinds of political contexts to say, this is kingdom culture. This is not East or West culture. We're talking about this is what Jesus has taught us, and this is what we're about as Christians. And we don't care who the nation is. We need to critique you. And we've been lobbying those of us who are from the U.S. to say, please do not be afraid to speak truth to my nation. And when that document is on the floor tomorrow, I will be going to the mic to speak for it. I will be encouraging them as an American citizen to say, you must hold my nation accountable. You simply must.
Please record it, and please send us some of that live audio so that we can create a future program for you with your own remarks on the floor of that. What do you call it? Is it a conference? It's more than a conference. It's kind of a synod.
Churches. It's the meeting of this decision-making body. The World Assembly only happens every 8 years, and at that assembly, they elect about 300 people who will meet with, there's a smaller executive committee, but we meet every 2 years. We're sort of like the general ongoing board of the World Council, everything from finances to policy and education. So
I just want to ask you one last question and then give you final word on this, our first inaugural show of your program. When I think about your education, a graduate and alumni of Harvard University, and I think about the first African-American woman to head Harvard, I think about her presentation before the Congress with 2 other heads of major universities and how they were essentially sacked over the idea that they didn't issue strong condemnation on their campuses against anti-Semitism. When I think about their reaction and response, including limiting and ending the tenure of Claudine Gay at Harvard. When I think about the troops that are being placed in our American cities, from Los Angeles to Texas, and some other governors are now encouraging or authorizing the National Guard to quell protests. For me, it's no longer about ICE. It's almost as if those of us who would be coming together to say, what's taking place in the world is wrong, and that the genesis of so much of this activity does take place on college campuses. And so the first bomb wasn't dropped on Iran. It was dropped on the Constitution. It was dropped on protests at colleges, and now it's being dropped on cities. Your thoughts on that, and then I'd love for you to share with your listeners, our listeners, a word of hope.
I think you're absolutely right. And when you look at, we were in the Apartheid Museum yesterday afternoon, and you see the images of young people. Frank Chibaki was a young man 40 years ago when the Kairos document was being developed. When Nelson Mandela began his work, he was a young man. Mahatma Gandhi, a young man. Martin Luther King, 26. Your dad, a student, right? North Carolina A&T. So we have so many legacy moments when young people have arisen. We are seeing some of that on college campuses. I'm really proud to be a Harvard graduate in this moment. After the whole President Gay debacle, Black alumni were pretty disgusted, but we have been very proud. I understand the president of Harvard got a 1-minute standing ovation at commencement because of his work to resist what's happening. The Northwestern Black Alumni Association normally gets money from the university to host a celebration for Black seniors. And this year they were told they could not use the university's name for this Black event.
Wow.
And so Black alumni themselves, my husband being one of them, raised over $8,000 to rent a venue and sponsor a celebration for those Black students. And they celebrated them. They called it the Black Cats. Northwestern is the Wildcat, so they called it the Black Cats. So we have to remind, as A. Scott was talking about, passing it on. We have to make sure our young people don't lose this history of advocacy and struggle, and let them know it is indeed the young people who have continued to lead us, and they must continue to lead us. And I hope we will have. Certainly something I'm committed to is to sharing this history and then empowering them and giving them space to move and lead, and not just waiting for us to get too old to move before they can assume the reins of things. So I think that's really powerful. I think our hope is indeed in those young people, and the truth crushed to earth will indeed rise. The fact that I just believe that love is the strongest power on earth, love and truth. Walter Brueggemann, noted Hebrew Bible scholar and theologian who just passed away on June 5th, said that truth-telling is the emancipatory vocation of the church. I want to have t-shirts made with that. Truth-telling is the emancipatory, the freedom-making, the liberating work of the church.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
Yeah.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. This is Reverend Teresa Horde Owens. She is moving big mountains on Moving Mountain Mondays. When we come forward, we'll be with Dr. James Zogby and Barbara Arnwine on tomorrow. Thank you, Dr. Owens.